As a young man from Mileto, I set out to watch the Olympic Games. I also wanted to visit the famous provincial place. I travelled through all of Larissa to arrive at Thessalae. When I was wandering through the streets searching for a job, as I had spent all my money, I caught sight of an old man in the middle of the forum sitting on a stone. In a loud voice he proclaimed, "He who wants to guard the dead will receive a big reward." When I heard this, I said, "What do you have to do to guard the dead? Do the dead often escape here?" "Quiet," he replied, "for you, boy, are a stranger, and you don't know about Thessaly, and need to learn about the witches who always steal the bones of the dead. For they need many ingredients for the magic art." "What protection is needed?" I asked. "Firstly," he replied, "you're expected to stay vigilant all night and always keep your eye intently on the corpses. Don't let the witches get by you in any way to the body. They often take the form of animals, such as birds, dogs, mice, and will even take the form of flies." On finding this out, I made my mind manly and approached at once. "Old man," I shouted, "stop shouting. Get me ready to be a guard." I barely finished when at once the old man led me into the house, where he showed me a crying woman in a black cloak. She got up and led me to a bedroom. There with her hand she uncovered a body with a splendid linen cloth. When she showed me everything, she anxiously left. Thus, left alone with the corpse, I rubbed my eyes and prepared myself to guard, while my nerves were being soothed by a song. I stayed awake until the middle of the night, but then my fear grew, when suddenly a weasel creeped up and stood facing me, eyes fixed upon me. So much confidence in an animal sent my nerves into turmoil. At last I said to it, "Go away, wicked beast. Go away before you test my wrath. Go away."
Thank you. The weasel turned her back and left the room. A deep sleep suddenly overcame me, so that not even Apollo could tell between the living and the dead. I awoke at first light and attended to the corpse with great panic, and the movement of the light revealed his expression to me. I carefully inspected him. Suddenly, his wife burst in weeping. She inspected the body and gave me my wages. "For your honesty," she said. "Citizens, as a public duty, we are to visualize the old man pointing an accusing finger at this criminal, evil woman, because it was she alone who killed her husband and my sister's son with poison to get his money and to keep her new lover. She, bursting into tears as convincingly as she could, summoning the gods to witness her denial of the crime. The old man said, there is a man who has been sent by God to judge evil. Zacchaeus is a famous prophet from Egypt who will be rewarded a lavish prize if he manages to retrieve the cold grey corpse from the infernal underworld and return his soul to him." The prophet was stirred into action. He took a special herb and laid it 3 times on the mouth of the dead man. Then he took another and put it on his breast. And then he turned to face the west and silently prayed to the sacred disk of the rising sun. The people waited in expectance of a miracle. I pushed my way through the crowd behind the funeral pyre and watched with the other curious spectators. The corpse ascended, chest swelling, the spirit returning to the once empty body, and the corpse rose and was speaking. "Why, I plead, did you bring me back to this world after I drank from Letheus and have seen the deep pools of Cocytus and the swamps of Styx? Stop this, leave me in peace." This voice was heard from the corpse, but the prophet cut across him. "Why don't you tell all these people about your death?" he asked.
The dead man on the bed answered and, with a deep groan, said this to the surrounding people: "My death sentence was given in the form of a poisoned chalice. I was murdered with great skill by my wicked new wife, and an adulterer allowed into our bed, which was not yet even cold. I will give you very clear proof, and as no one else know, you shall see that what I speak is the truth." Then he turned suddenly, pointed his finger at me, and said, For this is the very keen-witted man who guarded my corpse, vigorously, even though witches, disguised in mutated forms, approached us, eager for my flesh. But when even their best efforts failed to deceive him, they used witchcraft to cast him into a deep, hazy sleep. Then they began to chant my name, Philithron, to gain power over me. Ceaselessly they chanted, and already the cold limbs of my body began to revive to the commands of their magic art. But then the other man beside me sprung up instead, because by chance his name, like mine, was also Philithron. Although he was not dead, he was in a sleep as deep as death. Lifelessly and mechanically he went to the door. It had been carefully locked, but the witches reached in through a hole in the door and cut off his nose and ears, mistakenly practicing on him the mutilation that was intended for me. Then they cut off pieces from a wax tablet which they found in the room, molded them into the shape of nose and ears, and attached them where the real ones had been. And now this guard stands before me, rewarded for his efforts only by mutilation. When he said that, I, terrified for my appearance, clasped my hands to my nose and then to my ears. They fell off! Drenched in cold sweat, I fled, crawling between the legs of the crowd to escape their cruel pointing and jeering. From there on, everyone I met was astonished, and laughter and mockery followed me everywhere. Finally I reached home, where I grew my hair long and covered my nose with a cloth to hide my shame. The end.